Myself Raj. Welcome to Raj Online Trainings. In the series of Java programming complete placement course, we have started Java basics in the last videos, where we have seen about basics like the meaning of comments, the meaning of keywords, and the meaning of variables. Today, let us move to the next one in basics, that is data types. So what is this data type is like? Type of data the variable holds is called as data type. Like example, if you are allocating a memory for employee name, so in employee name we are storing a value like Raj. So collection of characters, collection of alphabets, we call it as string data type. We call it as what? String. If we take one more example like employee age, we are storing a value like 28. So a numeric value without any decimal point, we call it as integer data type. If we take one more example like employee salary, we are going with like a value 66,000.00. A value with a numeric value with a decimal point, we call it as float data type. So the type of data the variable holds, that we call it as data type. In Java, we are in two types. We are in two types of data types. They are primitive data types. Examples of primitive like byte, short, char, int, long, float, double, boolean. And all these are keywords. They are smaller case letters. And coming to reference data types, we are in two types. One is primitive and one more is reference. Reference types like arrays comes under as reference type in Java. String also comes under as reference type. Classes, any class you take, either predefined or user defined. String is also a class here. It's a predefined class. All classes comes under as reference type here. So examples of predefined classes are like string, system, exception, thread, like that. User defined classes are our own classes like employee, person, student, customer, like this. So more about reference type we'll discuss when we come to the topic arrays and object-oriented programming. And in order to store a value into a variable, we need to declare the variable. We have to allocate memory space for variable. Then only we can store value into the variable. And how to declare the variable is, that is first of all, what is the need of declaration? In order to allocate memory space for variable, we need to declare the variable. Without allocating memory space for variable, we cannot use that variable. And the syntax of declaring variable is, we have to mention the data type space variables like variable 1, variable 2, like that variable n. And every statement in Java should end with a semicolon. Like example, we are saying int age. Age is a variable of what type? Integer. String like employee name, company name. Employee name, company name is of what type? String type. Employee salary, it's of what type? Float type. So we have to mention the data type and the variable list separated by comma. Then only it's going to allocate memory space for variable. Without declaring the variable, we cannot use that variable in our program. So before using a variable in the program, we need to declare the variable. Coming to all the primitive data types, this table is very important, like data type, size and default value. When you declare a variable of type byte, then how much memory space it's going to allocate in RAM? How much memory space it's going to use? So for byte it is 1 byte. For short 2 bytes. For character 2 bytes. For integer 4 bytes. For long 8 bytes. For float 4 bytes. For double 8 bytes. And coming to boolean, boolean will go with 1 bit. Because when you go with boolean, boolean can take only two values. That, like example, boolean b1 equal to true, boolean b2 equal to false. When you take a value true, the internal value what it is going to store is 1. When you say false, the internal value what it stores is 0. To store 1 and 0, it requires 1 bit of memory. And the next one, default value. This is very important. If you consider C or C++, if you take C or C++, if you declare a variable like int n, if you are declaring a variable like integer n, it's going to allocate memory space for n variable. It's going to allocate memory space for n variable, and the value what it holds, we cannot say what value it contains. So this we call it as garbage or unknown value. This we call it as what? Garbage or unknown value. So in the case of C or C++, if you declare a variable, it's going to allocate memory space for variable, and what value it holds, we cannot know that value. That's the reason we call it as garbage or unknown value. Coming to Java. If you take Java, if you declare a variable like int n, then it's going to allocate memory space for n variable, and the value what it holds, since n is of type integer, the value what it holds is 0. This we call it as a default value. In case of Java, there is no concept of garbage values. In Java, we are having a concept of what? Default values. So if you take all the integral types like byte, short, int, long, the default value is 0. And for character, a single space. For floating types like float, double, the default value is 0.0. And for Boolean, it is false. So in case of Java, there is no concept of what? Garbage values. It goes with the concept of default values. This concept is very, very important to us. We're having one more like range. So the range of byte is like -128 to 127. So if you take a variable of type byte, we can store a value between -128 to 127. This we call it as range. If you want to store a bigger value than byte range, we go with the short. In case of short, we can store a value between -32768 to 32767. If you want to store a bigger value than short, we go with integer. If you want to store a bigger value than integer, we go with long. Similar way, if I want to store a bigger value than float, we go with the double. And no need to remember ranges. No one will ask you about the ranges. Just I have given for your reference the range of our primitive data types. Right? So this topic is very, very important. Please recap this topic. Please subscribe, like and share. Thank you.